How did the Chelsea internationals get on during the international break? Impressive results for some, injuries for others, a lot of media talk around a certain Mr. Hazard, and reports about said Mr. Hazard being ready to accept the contract offer made by Chelsea. To find out about all of that and everything worth mentioning about Chelsea and the players in the last 10 days or so, make sure you watch all of this international roundup. Hello there guys and welcome back to 100% Chelsea, to the international roundup. And it's been a while. It has certainly been a while since we last saw each other, since we last spoke to each other basically. To be honest, I can't lie, it has been quite good to have a little bit of a break. Obviously, Jean still provided you with some quality content about the women's football, which was obviously still on while the men were obviously out on international duty basically. But now we're back with some normal videos basically. This is the international roundup. There will be the preview ahead of the Manchester United game on Friday, and obviously then it's all back to normal business. So to make sure you won't miss out on any of our future content, do make sure you subscribe to 100% Chelsea if you haven't already, and also make sure you click the notification bell button and choose to be notified about all uploads, because YouTube is getting more and more weird and less people actually get our videos into the sub boxes basically if they are subscribed. So please turn the notifications on so you actually do, get a notification to your phone or an email basically when we do upload a video, so you don't miss out on any of them if you do want to watch them. And let's also see whether we can hit 500 or more likes in this video yet again. That'd be massively appreciated, so make sure you smash the like button down below. But now let's actually get into the video and speaking about our internationals. And I will go through all of the Chelsea internationals, basically over the last 10 days and talk about how they got on. And I will also mention some of the loanies, but I won't mention every single loanee that was out on international duty. So don't come at me for not talking about Nigeria's Ola Aina or Omeru or Croatia's Pasalic. Or I won't talk about all of them, but don't come at me. I basically informed you beforehand. And starting it off by speaking about England, because for once there was actually a player that featured regularly and featured in quite an important role in Ross Barkley. And also loanee Mason Mount, Derby County loanee Mason Mount, was involved as well for the first time, getting his first England call-up, while on the other hand Ruben Loftus-Cheek was left out compared to being obviously part of the World Cup squad and then also being involved in September, in the last international break, which is where he got injured, which is why he didn't feature a lot in the last month, except for when we played VD, was it? Did he start against VD? Yes, he did. So, it's kind of England's fault that he didn't play much, but now they left him out because he didn't play much, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. And obviously Gary Cahill retired after the World Cup. Barkley actually started both of England's games this week. Away at Croatia, they 0-0 draw, which England really should have won, hitting the bar twice, as Ross Barkley played the full 90 minutes. And also in England's rather surprising 3-2 away victory over Spain on Monday, in which they were 3-0 up by half-time and somehow managed to hold on in the second half, and obviously, Sergio Ramos made it, 3-2 basically as the final whistle blew. So, that was a very impressive win for England and fair play. And also Ross Barkley playing a crucial role in England's third goal with an outstanding chip pass to Harry Kane, who then ended up assisting Raheem Sterling, I think it was. And generally, Ross Barkley had two very decent games. I can't lie, he had two very decent games and played until the 75th minute against Spain. Both of England's games were part of the Nations League, in which England are now second in the group, 2 points behind Spain and 3 ahead of Croatia. Obviously, as I said, Mason Mount got his first ever senior England call-up, but remained an unused sub in both of the games. Now, coming to Croatia, as obviously I just spoke about them with England, Mateo Kovacic was involved with them, and he also started against England, but had to come off injured with 73 minutes played, which is obviously a little bit annoying, and then didn't even make the bench in Croatia's 2-1 friendly win over Jordan, I think on Monday, or was it yesterday? I think it was Monday, and returned back to Chelsea over the weekend already. And the only sort of, update on Kovacic's fitness situation I found was Croatia manager Dalic saying that it was a minor injury, but he said that after the game against England, so, there was not much assessment done by then. But, minor injury could mean a lot of things. Could mean, out for a couple of days, could mean out for a couple of weeks, because a couple of weeks in the grand scheme of things still is a minor injury. So who knows whether he'll be available for Manchester United on Saturday, of course. And I guess we'll just have to wait for Sarri's press conference on Friday to find out about that. And now coming to Belgium, obviously Eden Hazard was involved with them, and so was Michy Batshuayi, obviously currently on loan at Valencia. Hazard started both games for Belgium, the first one being a 2-1 win over Switzerland in the Nations League, where he played the full 90, while in Belgium's friendly with the Netherlands that ended in a 1-1 draw, he was replaced by his brother Thorgan Hazard at half-time. Now, Eden Hazard didn't manage to get on the score sheet or assist the goal, but from the extended highlights that I did see of both games, he still seemed to have, played two very good games and played a crucial role in 2 of the 3 goals Belgium did score this week. Batshuayi, on the other hand, only played in the second half against the Netherlands. Didn't get on the score sheet either. He forced 2 decent saves from the goalkeeper, but that was about it. But, let's basically get into the more important stuff about this whole Belgium and Eden Hazard thing. Now, as this is the international roundup, and what I'm going to talk about happened during the international break, it fits perfectly. And it was arguably more interesting than any of the football. Certainly funnier than any of the football, to me at least. So, of course, with, him being the captain of Belgium and generally always being in high demand with the media, Hazard gave some press conferences and gave some interviews. So, of course, there was going to be talk about, oh, he said this, he said that. It was always going to happen. So, he said things like, he won't leave Chelsea in January. He said that the club told him he wasn't going to leave last summer, that he thinks it was a good decision. He also said that he doesn't want to be in conflict with the club because, they've done so much for him, basically. And also replied, and I quote, "That's why I want to go, maybe," to the question of whether he has to basically move to Spain and play in Spain to win the Ballon d'Or, considering Ronaldo was the last one to win it while not playing in Spain, and that was 10 years ago in 2008. So, if you hear me say it like that, if you just hear me quoting him like that, you will think, fuck, Hazard is going to leave. Hazard is going to leave. What are we going to do? We're fucked without Hazard. And that's exactly what happened when the newspapers and Twitter accounts and all sorts quoted Hazard to what he said in their press conference. Well, what people didn't do is watch and listen to him say it. Because if they did, they would have heard the cheek and sarcasm in basically every word, of his that he said in the whole press conference, except the only word that didn't sound like it was anything, cheeky or sarcastic was his no when, he was asked whether he would leave Chelsea in January. That was the only word that sounded serious coming out of his mouth, basically. Everything else was kind of like, tongue-in-cheek and just a bit cheeky, him with his little winks and stuff. Hazard, people should know Hazard by now. He's been around for 6 years, over 6 years. People should know the way he acts in front of the media. He just thinks this is all funny. And I think it's hilarious how people keep losing their shit. But, following all of that and the absolute meltdown that occurred both in the media and within Chelsea fans, today the Italian paper, Gazzetta dello Sport, reported that Eden Hazard is apparently ready to accept €18 million a year or €350,000 a week, which equals to around £300,000 a week, deal basically that Chelsea have offered him, that he's ready to accept that and basically not go to Real Madrid and accept that. And it's all great and it's all fun and party, basically. Now, do I believe that that is true? No. Now, the Gazzetta isn't bad, but their expertise, to my knowledge, mainly lies within Italian football, and it would just be odd for an Italian newspaper to know about a deal that Chelsea have offered Eden Hazard before any other news outlet in the world knew about it and reported about it. That just wouldn't make much sense, especially with Chelsea chairman Bruce Buck literally yesterday saying, and I quote, "Every Chelsea fan in London and around the world loves Eden Hazard. And he's not only a great footballer, but I think he's a wonderful lad. We want him to stay, and we will do what we have to do to entice him to stay." Now, to me, that sure doesn't sound like a huge offer has already been put to Hazard. More like a huge offer will be offered to him, basically. And, I do believe that Hazard will sign a new deal at Chelsea eventually. I don't think that he will leave for Real Madrid anytime soon. I don't think he will leave anywhere anytime soon, in all honesty. But, it's just what my gut is telling me. That's no inside information or any of that. It's just what I'm feeling like. I think that's going to happen. Plus, I don't believe that Real Madrid necessarily want Hazard as badly as the media kind of make it out to be. Some of the media, some other journalists, especially from Spain, actually say that they're not really after Hazard that much. And the only reason I could see, Real Madrid actually making a proper offer for Hazard next summer is if they fail to land either Neymar or Mbappe. That's the only way I could see them properly going in for Hazard. And, maybe it's just me being really hopeful, but I think Hazard will sign a new deal. Not right now. I don't believe in the reports that have come out today. Obviously English papers have picked up on him by now. I don't believe in that. Maybe by around January, February time is when I could see it happen, because usually our players sign, extensions, contract extensions when they have around 18 months left on a contract, and that obviously is the case in around January. So that's why I expect it to happen then. If it is going to happen, obviously it could just be next season as well in theory. But, I still think he's going to sign a new deal, but obviously we'll have to wait and see. And now continuing on with the international roundup and speaking about the players out on international duty, coming to Denmark and Andreas Christensen. Now, Christensen came on for the last 10 minutes in Denmark's 0-0 draw against Ireland in the Nations League and started in a midfield 3 actually in their 2-0 friendly win over a majorly injury-struck Austria team before being subbed off with around an hour played. And yes, I had to mention majorly injury-struck Austria team, simply because to make myself feel better, really, because we lost. To be honest, I didn't watch the game, it was a football myself, and then I watched the Germany-France game because, it was a friendly. No one cares about friendlies, even if it's my own country. I don't care, especially when all of our players are basically injured. All of our good players, every single good player was injured. So there was no point watching that. And then coming to France, where Olivier Giroud, N'Golo Kanté, and also Loni Kurt Zouma were involved, France drew their first game 2-0 with Iceland in a friendly, coming back from 2-0 down actually, as Conte didn't feature at all and Giroud started but had no goal involvement, while Zuma actually got to play the second half as well, which is, fair play. I'm happy for him that, he's getting back into that realm basically. And the second game took place last night against the completely out of form Germany, who lost their first game 3-0 against the Netherlands, which is mad in the first place. Absolutely mad, that result. And against Germany, both Conte and Giroud started and basically played the full 90. Conte was subbed off, basically in the last minute, but basically played the full 90, didn't he? Now, Toni Kroos converted a slightly controversial penalty to put Germany 1-0 up in a Germany-dominated first half before France turned things up a good bit more in the second half, and Antoine Griezmann equalised with a very good header and then doubled his goal tally for the night by scoring the winner from an even more controversial penalty, which then ended up winning the game for France by 2-1. But now coming to Italy, where Jorginho and Emerson Palmieri were called up, but Zappacosta this time was left out compared to the last few international breaks where he was involved with the team, and Jorginho played the full 90 in both games actually, which obviously I'm not that happy about because hoping for as many players as possible to get a rest basically, while Emerson Palmieri at the same time was an unused sub in both of their games. In the first one, Italy drew 1-0 with the Ukraine in a friendly, and in the second game they beat Poland by 1-0 away from home in the Nations League with a last minute winner while Jorginho hit the bar with a great strike from distance in the first half already. That meant Poland basically are relegated from League A in the Nations League, and Italy had to win that game, or if they lost basically they would have been relegated instead of Poland. So, Italy is not going great at the moment either, because other than that, they're just not playing that well. Like, I watched the extended highlights of the game, and it's just not that pretty to watch, and it hasn't been for a while with Italy, so there's not much more to say about them. But now coming to Spain, obviously Kepa Arrizabalaga was involved, Azpilicueta was, Marcos Alonso was, and Alvaro Morata was as well, and as usual, Pedro and Cesc Fabregas weren't involved, as, they haven't been for a good while. Now, Spain's first game was a friendly in which they beat Wales by 4-1, in which Azpilicueta and Morata started, with Azpilicueta coming off after around an hour played, while Kepa actually came on for De Gea at halftime to play the second half, while Morata played the full 90 but didn't manage to be involved in any of the goals. And the other game was obviously the one against England, which I already mentioned earlier, in which Alonso played the full 90 minutes, started and, didn't come off basically, and, could maybe have done slightly better for some of the England goals, but I still think he had a decent performance overall, while Morata came on in the 72nd minute, but didn't really have much of an influence on the game in all honesty, as Azpilicueta and Kepa were unused subs in the game. And now coming to our last international out on international duty being Ethan Ampadu, and Ampadu himself started the, in Wales 4-1 defeat to Spain, but had to come off after 50 minutes actually, after extending his knee and basically injuring himself slightly. He then returned to training rather than travelling to Ireland to play in Wales 1-0 win in Dublin in the Nations League. So, again, similar to with Kovacic, we don't really know how serious his injury is, but let's be honest, Ampadu wouldn't have featured against United either way. I don't know whether you are, but maybe you're thinking, where the hell is Rüdiger? Why wasn't he involved with Germany? Well, he was called up, but picked up a groin injury against Southampton in obviously our last game before the international break and had to pull out of the German squad. There was no specific information as to how long he will be out for, but I'm assuming we'll find out on Friday in Sarri's press conference yet again whether he'll be fit, for Saturday or not. I hope so. He hasn't started, training yet with the rest of the team that weren't, away on international duty. Maybe he will do tomorrow when the other players that were out on international duty start training again as well. Hopefully he will, because we really need Rüdiger. He's been obviously immense so far this season. And the only real surprise of players that weren't picked was Willian not being in the Brazil squad for the first time in a very long time. Obviously David Luiz and stuff like that, they've not been involved in their national teams for quite a while, so it's not a surprise that David Luiz isn't called up, even if he's playing again now. But Willian not being involved was a little bit of a surprise to me, especially with Richarlison being called up. Yes, I know he's, started quite well for Everton, and I know a lot of people hate on Willian, but Willian is still a lot better than Richarlison is right now. Either way, that's really it from me. Leave me all of your thoughts on everything I've mentioned in the video down in the comment section below. I obviously know that the main talking point is the whole Hazard contract situation, so if you have any thoughts on that, leave me your thoughts about it down in the comment section below. Like I said in the beginning, let's see whether we can hit 500 or more likes on this video. That'd be massively appreciated, so make sure you smash that like button down below. And of course, also don't forget to check out my social media, which is last1507 on both Instagram and Twitter, as you can see over here, and also the links to both of them will be down in the description. And obviously, to find out about all of the injury updates that we don't know about right now, make sure you watch my preview that will, ahead of the Manchester United game, that will come out on Friday. And obviously, so you don't miss that, do make sure you subscribe and also hit the notification bell button so you don't miss that video and also any of the future videos as well, of course. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, and I'll see you next time.